Hey everybody, welcome to this video about how to structure your rhetorical situation analysis. I'm making this video for you because Project 2 demands a lot more moving parts than the literacy narrative, which really consisted of these two major components of telling a story and analyzing your sponsor. In the rhetorical situation analysis, you're doing a lot more than that. And so, because of the complexity of this task, it can be kind of tricky to know how to fit all of the pieces together. So, in this video, I'm going to present one possible way you could fit all of those pieces together. If you would like to deviate from this and try something else out, feel free to do so, and we can offer you feedback in our conferences about how well that structure is working. But here's one possible route through this writing assignment. So the first thing, obviously, is to have an introduction. Unlike a thesis-driven argumentative essay, I don't think the rhetorical situation analysis needs a thesis per se. But we do need some kind of introduction to introduce your reader to the task you're about to perform. So it's slightly more flexible than a traditional thesis-driven introduction, but it should introduce us to the task you're about to undertake. After that, it'd be wonderful for you to introduce us to both your research inquiry and the discipline in which that research inquiry falls. You wrote in your discussion posts about the parameters of your discipline. What falls within the discipline? What falls outside of the discipline? You can share some of that information with us. And of course, also share with us the primary research inquiry that you developed within that discipline. After that, it might make sense to tell us a bit about your chosen academic source. Since you're analyzing the rhetorical situation and the discourse community of a specific academic source, your readers who likely have not read that source themselves would like to know something about that source. What is its primary argument? What is it saying? What does it address? Your readers want to know that. Once you've done that, it might be a fitting time to transition to Bitzer. You can tell us about a bit of his argument in his article, The Rhetorical Situation, and how you'll be applying his argument to your chosen academic source. That seems to be a very fitting time then to identify the exigence, audience, and constraints of the rhetorical situation that your source is responding to. And of course, all of those claims will need to be supported by well-chosen evidence and warrants to connect the claims and the evidence together in order to be successful. After that, we have our discourse community work. So it might make sense to transition to Swales and tell us a little bit about the argument that Swales presents in his essay about discourse communities, explaining to us how you'll be using that information. Then you can move on to your discourse community analysis, where you'll identify the 6 features of a discourse community that Swales says is inherent to that definition, and show us how the discipline within which your source is talking fits within a discourse community. And then after all of that, you might then take a moment to evaluate the fittingness of your source's response. Does your source do a good job responding to its rhetorical situation? Does it seem like a fitting, successful member of the discourse community that your discipline comprises? That's where that evaluation can come in. And then finally, you can write a conclusion. And we'll talk more about strategies for a conclusion in the weeks to come. But let me quickly say it can summarize your main claims and offer new pathways in its final sentences, new areas of inquiry, new areas of direction. We'll talk about that in more detail later on. So this is one example of a possible way to structure your essay.